Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
Apparently, America First Legal is filing a federal civil rights complaint against the Disney Company for illegal race and sex discrimination. Basically, they don't like white dudes.
Basically, they're using that, the thing that Elon Musk brought up the other day, the Disney general entertainment practices, inclusion practices. And we talked about that. It was actually from years ago. ABC had it. It was on the Reimagine Tomorrow. Now they're going to use that to go and say they're violating civil rights.
Okay, because apparently it's not fashionable to be a white guy at Disney unless you're in charge of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
Unless you're in charge, then you're fine. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to hire any other white guys. We'll talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants. Guys, you get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
She's allowed to woohoo. I am not, being a white guy. I'm not allowed to woohoo.
It's protected.
So tell me about this.
Okay. So America First Legal, AFL, filed a federal civil rights complaint against the Walt Disney Company and its subsidiaries for violating Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by engaging in illegal race, sex, and national origin discrimination. Okay. So the law prohibits them from using race, color, religion, sex, blah, 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 for hiring, training, promotions. But the documents that we saw strongly suggest that race, color, religion, sex, or national origin are often the only motivating factor in Disney's hiring, training, and promotional discussions, that the company is intentionally discriminating against white American men, Christians, and Jews because of their race, sex, religion, and citizenship.
Uh-oh.
Well, here's the thing. They asked for 50%. On a lot of these.
But what happens if you have a very qualified candidate who just happens to be a white dude, and that's going to put you at 51%.
Right.
And you can't hire that person, even though they might be the best person for the job because,
I know. And that's just, you're not supposed to be basing your hiring on these kinds of things, but they are basing their hiring on these kinds of things. So they said, they bring up the general entertainment content inclusion standards, and they talk about these. And this is their press release. There's actually a letter too. But they're saying all Disney General Entertainment productions are required to comply with Disney's DEI inclusion standards. Some of the standards explicitly provide that 50% of the following jobs must be filled by members of underrepresented groups: regular and recurring actors and characters in Disney content, producers and writing staff, overall crew or project staff, line producers, and our production department heads.
Yeah, and we've known about this for a while. I mean, this goes back to what they were talking about in the movies and the TV shows that weren't greenlit because they weren't diverse enough. They're like, oh yeah, it's a fantastic show. We think it'd make lots of money. Lots of people would watch it, but it was just too white.
Yeah, basically.
It was too white. I'm like, did you just hear yourself? Like, here's a fantastic show. They'll make us lots of money and make our shareholders lots of money, and lots of people will tune in and enjoy it, but we couldn't pick it up because it was too white.
Right. They're saying also that they're promoting underrepresented groups, creating jobs to facilitate union eligibility for members of underrepresented groups, and facilitating a substantial year-over-year increase in members of underrepresented groups as directors and in writing staff. They also talk about, there was also a leaked frequently asked questions section to their inclusion standards. And they said they were going to increase training and development opportunities for members of underrepresented groups in a racially exclusionary manner. This is what they're alleging. Right. They said that, what are the DGE inclusion standards? The DGE inclusion standards are a set of guidelines aimed at improving the inclusion of underrepresented groups, both on screen and in creative leadership and below the line positions on DGE productions.
Right.
The standards also aim to increase training and development opportunities for members of underrepresented groups and to enhance DGE's engagement with underserved audiences. The expectation is the inclusion standards will serve as a catalyst for those involved in the creative and hiring process to become even more engaged in inclusive hiring and employment practices, and to take further action to evaluate whether any barriers to equal employment opportunity exist, like skill, for underrepresented groups.
You can't say that.
And if so, to address those barriers. Now, that doesn't, of course, there are a lot of skilled people that are underrepresented groups that are skilled people. I'm not saying there aren't.
Yeah,
but it's not merit-based. It sounds like it's based on,
Right. That's what we have to be clear about, because a lot of people, when they get into this conversation, they're like, well, you're saying that, diverse people can't be skilled. It's like, no, we're not saying that. Are some people saying that? They might be, and that's a very incorrect thing to say. What we're saying is that when you assess a person's ethnicity or gender or whatever first. And then if they happen to have skills, well, that's a bonus. That's a problem.
That's not fair to them either.
No,
and
it's
then
not fair to them.
It's also a problem when they're getting extra trainings, extra, easy access to being, part of the unions or whatever, because they're an underrepresented group, where you're basically saying you're making an easy path forward for some people, but not for others. That is concerning, because if you traded it out with, oh, hey, if you're white, straight, and male, you get to go do this. And if you're not, then forget it. And people will be like, well, that was already understood. And for sometimes, I'm sure it probably was.
Yeah,
but it wasn't right then.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue
right
that
now.
one. I'm not going to argue that one. I'm not going to argue
one isn't, if one is not right, neither is right, and that's where we're at.
Well, where we're at right now, though, is we have this equity, trumping equality. It used to be that we were always looking for equality, and now we're saying no, it has to be equity, which means that you give preferential treatment to underrepresented groups because basically they have to play catch up to white folks. That's the idea.
What was weird though was when you look at the actual, here I have it on mine. If you look at the whole thing, right? You go to the bottom, and we talked about this before. Context is critical when evaluating if a group is underrepresented. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talent about their actual or perceived race, religion, color. Blah, blah.
Wait, actual or perceived race?
Religion, color, sexual orientation, gender identity, military or veteran status, age, disability, or any other legally protected categories. So they're basically saying they have to hire these mandates, 50% this, 50% that, but they're not allowed to ask you what they are. So if you looked white, they're just going to assume, because they're not allowed to ask you.
So what was that? What's her face's name? Was it that Rachel Dolans or whatever her name was, that she pretended to be black, and then she
I don't remember. Yeah,
she wound up as I forget what position she had, but she was like, I'm black. I'm like, no, she was just really tan, and she was like deliberately cosplaying as a black woman. And then one of the kids told me she had like an OnlyFans or something. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. Well, they're talking about how they're seeing like different drops in, people as white dropped by 3.6%, people that were black that dropped by 0.5%, and all this other stuff. That's going on. They said Disney maintains an illegal grant program that funnels $25,000 into underrepresented directors. The program unlawfully only awards grants to women, API, Black, and Indigenous, Native, Tinkerbell.
Disney needs to copyright that. They need to
they hate this. I keep telling you.
Tinkerbell.
We don't want to award grants. We only can award grants to these people, but we hate people. We hate being called that. But they keep using the slur. LGBTQIA plus, disability identifying, and religiously marginalized individuals. Disability identifying.
Okay. What? Just what? Disability identifying. So if you think you have a disability, even if you haven't been medically diagnosed, hell, that's everybody. You could just say, oh God, my back hurts. I've got a disability. I'm disabled identifying. I don't want to walk my fat ass to the,
well, you're assuming,
to the castle, Cinderella castle. So I'm going to get a jazzy. I'm disability identifying. That's like all those children, they're disability identifying. They're like 12 years old and they're in a damn stroller.
Yes, true.
I'm like, come on.
In some cases, though, to be fair, as a mom who's been on these Disney boards, in some cases, the 12-year-olds really legitimately need a stroller because they do have a disability. But, the parents,
the ones I've seen, they're taking turns pushing the stroller. They put the parents in the stroller and then they're pushing it.
We saw it. So anyway, this is what they're arguing about. They're saying this stuff is all questionable. They're claiming civil rights violations against people who aren't in these groups that they're giving special treatment to. But they're saying, if you go out to the letter, here's the entire letter's out there. They sent out. I'm not going to read it all. It's just like it's the same thing. We pretty much covered just many, many pages of it.
Look, it is very, 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 very obvious that Disney is showing favoritism to certain groups of people. Bob Iger admitted to it in that video. We're starting to see now. I think what is going on is, I'm going to be honest, I think behind the scenes we have Peltz and friends just trying to case build against why the Disney board needs to be voted out because of all this crap. And they're going to use this. They're absolutely going to use it to try to be like, yeah, look what they're doing. Why does Disney suck now because they're not necessarily hiring the best people for projects. They're going based on check boxes. And we've known this forever. Like, I mean, it's explicitly stated in their DEI mandates now. It's been explicitly stated by Bob Iger. Everybody's known this. We're like, God, things are getting weird. Why are they greenlighting this movie or that movie? Or why is this random director that has like no credit whatsoever getting handed a $200 million Marvel movie? What the hell is going on? This is weird.
And what's sad is there are directors that do have the background and credentials that could do it, that would definitely be considered underrepresented categories, and they don't give it to them. It's and then the people you pick, you're like, based on what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, they're suing over it. Whether they'll win or not is, or not, well, they're not suing, but they're filing a civil complaint. Probably to see if there's grounds to move forward.
And I think there is.
Like, is Elon Musk funding it?
Well, okay, so that's a whole nother issue. I think he's more involved in this proxy fight than he's letting on.
Well, everybody's like, well, go buy stocks now. The thing is, you had to have bought them by a certain date to be able to vote.
Yeah, we already voted. We already tried to push some of these people out. I think Disney needs to clean house. Absolutely. And again, I think the most qualified person for the job should get the job. And those people come in any gender, any sexual orientation, any religious belief, any color. That's not the issue. The issue is you're immediately excluding potential candidates based on their skin color, their gender, their religion. You know what I'm saying? And that's not good for the company. What's best for the company is to hire the most qualified people.
The only problem I see with this is, and I'm going to not decide with them or anything, but the only problem I see is, though we're going to argue that the reason that you don't have as many qualified people from underrepresented groups is because they didn't have the opportunities that white straight men and Christian people and Jewish people apparently got. So they aren't going to be in the same footing as far as qualifications, which is why we have to make sure they get to go to the union and they get all the special training and everything else. And I mean, I'm sure it happens somewhat, but in this day and age, that's what gets me. For years, it wasn't an issue. Like, you know what I mean? They're trying to argue that they're kept down as if it was like the 50s. I
mean, that's the thing. Like doing this now, this whole equity thing now, it doesn't fix what happened decades ago. And those people are out of the workforce anyway, for the most part. And that being said, now people are always going to be suspicious when you have like a black woman get a job or something. Like, you're going to be like, is she actually qualified? Or did she only get hired? And that's not fair to her.
It's not.
But again, you by doing this, you've actually sown suspicion, and you might actually cause those employees more problems.
It's like they brought back issues that haven't existed in a long time, just to reignite those issues, to pretend like they're solving the issues. You know what I mean?
This has been a recent, like, seriously, I'm sitting here, like, I'm looking at entertainment. I'm like, for all your bragging about being diverse, look at Disney. I'm like, okay, you have like one black sitcom, I think Blackish or whatever, Grownish, whatever spinoffs they have now. Back in the day, there were several predominantly black sitcoms out there, and everybody watched them. Everybody watched The Cosby Show. Everybody watched Fresh Prince. Everybody watched Jeffersons. And it wasn't marketed back then as, oh, this is a black show for black people, written and directed by a black person. It's like, yeah, we can see the people on the screen. We get it. Is the show good? Yes or no?
A lot of shows that had mixed cast anyway. Like, there's characters, all different kinds of characters in the show, and no one thought anything of it. But it's like, they're bringing back, they're like taking 5 steps back to act like they're moving 10 steps forward. And it's like, you only still moved a few steps forward. And even then I'd argue that. You know what I'm saying? And now it's just doing is painting suspicion on people who are underrepresented.
Yes.
But they only got hired because they're a diversity hire. And that's not fair, because a lot of people probably got hired because they legitimately should have been hired.
Yeah, and we saw this happen in animation. I think we did a video a couple of years ago. There was a girl who had a diverse show that she took to Crunchyroll, and it did not get picked up, even though it looked pretty good. But it didn't get picked up because they flat out told her, because of like High Guardian Spice and all suspicion around diverse shows, we're not going to pick yours up or give yours a chance because we don't, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that's not fair either. So
you're actually going to, I think, keep people out more
Yeah.
Because companies are afraid now because they're equating their own problems they created with people hate these people because they're, the certain race, gender, or whatever identity. But it's actually they're mad at the company for being ridiculous. But those people are the ones who are going to take the punishment for it.
If you, I guess my thing is like, if you just organically hired the right people for the right jobs all along, regardless of where they came from or what they look like, right, or who they slept with, and you didn't make such a damn big deal about it and put a spotlight on them or on the people you weren't hiring, it wouldn't be a fucking problem.
And if you had hired the right people so you weren't having a bunch of bombs, that you look who's behind it, and it's like it looks like they were hired for these DEI initiatives, and then they just were the wrong people for the job, and you had probably other more qualified people you could have hired, but maybe they were only one checkbox and wanted 3, and this person gave you 3.
I gotta tell you, look, not a fan of the Marvels. I'm not a fan of the circus around the Marvels and all the whatever, and the movie bombed whatever. The director of the Marvels, I think they did her dirty. I think they did her dirty because they brought her into the situation, and then they went back and they refilmed a bunch of shit anyway, and then they threw her on the bus because she had to be at a birthday event or something like that. And then because they knew what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they knew what they're doing. They're like, oh, we'll just put out there, well, the bigots don't like the black woman in charge of the movie, and it's their fault, not our fault.
There's 2 different problems here. 2, when you're saying that. One of the problems is hiring people that are diverse or underrepresented groups, okay? The other problem is that you're taking characters in movies and stuff and you're changing them just for the sake of changing them when you're not, and it's for ham-fisted reasons. And then you're putting these people in charge of it, but it's not their, a lot of times it's not their decision to have changed it this way, but they're the ones that take the shit for it. And when it fails, which is mostly failing because of your stupid decisions, then they're going to blame those people for it. But it was, it's not just their fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
You set them up to fail. It fails. And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's their fault. And if you say anything, and I think they're doing it because then they can say, well, you're a bigot.
Yeah, that's your go-to. It's like, oh yeah, that's not our DEI mandates.
So it's really unfair the whole way around.
It is. But it seems like they're on some level though. I gotta wonder if they're starting to walk it back. Because with the Fantastic Four, which we talked about in another video today, I don't know which order we're gonna put these up in, but I was shocked at how close to the comics they actually stayed. Now we'll see what the actual movie's like. But if this movie, the cast was announced 3 or 4 years ago, I guarantee you, Thing would have been a black lesbian. Just because they had to do it. I was kind of shocked. I mean, yeah, we had Pedro Pascal, but he's popular now.
Thing because they would have been like, of course you're making the woman the thing.
Right.
But,
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been, there were rumors that they were going to make a Human Torch, a woman. Now, we still might get Silver Surfer with tits. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but what I'm saying, it does seem like they're kind of like, this is run its course, and our movies have bombed because we didn't hire the right people to put in charge. We went by this bunch of checklists and.
Well, that's the problem here at the end of the day. I don't know where this is going to go, but it does seem like they're being exclusionary to one group, and you're not allowed to do it. If you're not allowed to do it on one side, you're not allowed to do it on the other. And I'm tired of hearing, well, it's okay if we do it. It's like either you do it for everybody or you don't. And I think they need to go back to a merit-based meritocracy and go with that. Can we wrap this up?
We're wrapping this up. There you go. Another daily dose of dismal Disney. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.